reason I call it that is we not only want to defend our opponent's shot or counter our opponent's shot, we want to put our body in an offensive position where we can score also. What I mean is, if the opponent shoots, we don't only want to stop his shot, but we want to score. Okay? It's what I feel that has made me a better wrestler in the last 2 or 3 years. I really worked on my positioning and my countering on my feet about 3 years ago, and I concentrated on different ways in different positions that my opponent can attack my legs, and I worked on counters. And what that has allowed me to do, it's allowed me to be more aggressive on my feet. It's opened up a lot more offense for me. It's made me a better wrestler on my feet. It's given me the confidence in myself to defend my opponent's shot. So what that has done, that's allowed me to be more aggressive. I feel there's no one that can take me down. Although I've been taken down, but when I step out on the mat, I feel like no one can take me down. So what that allows me to do is to be aggressive, attack my opponent. Okay? And I feel what I see is right here. Okay? Our body is upright. We're staying up high in this position. What I'd like to see, and what I have done, what I've changed in my stance, is I've lowered my body. I've taken my head and shoulders, my forearms, everything, and I've lowered it. I'm not necessarily lowering my butt, but I'm lowering this position here to the mat so I can cover my legs. In this position, he's got to get through me. My hands, he's got to get through my head, he's got to get through my forearms before he can get to my hips. In this position here, it's going to be simple for my opponent to get to a leg. And with our head, we do it. Then we move him. If he gets past our head, we use our hands. That's our second line of defense. Our third line of defense is our forearms. And then our last is our hips. Unfortunately, most of the time our opponent gets to our hips, and that's where we have to defend from. But in the past few years, a lot of my opponents haven't been able to penetrate into me because I've used my head, my hands, and my forearms. I think about that when I'm on the defense or when my opponent shoots into me. We're covering our knees, whether we're in a stagger. I work out of a stagger, so I'll show you the stuff out of a stagger stance. In this position, my opponent shoots, my first line of defense is my head. Okay? I'm always looking with my head to drive him to the mat. I want my head above his. Only in this position, I want to drive my head on top of his and try to drive his body into the mat. Again, watch my position. In this position. Now we look for the offensive scoring. Okay? One more time. Right here. We successfully stopped our opponent with our head. Okay? If he gets past our head, we go to our hands. Takes a shot. Here. Okay? Then we can go to moving him. All right? He shoots again. Here. Okay? So we used our head. Our second line is our hands. And then our forearms. Here. This position. Then we move him. Okay? Understand though, every time that I've successfully stopped him, I moved him. You have to move your opponent. You don't let him sit. That's why that I see a lot. Anytime our opponent's head's to the outside or to the hip, okay, it's a lot easier for him to score because he can use his head and he can get the angle that he needs to drive you across in a double leg situation. So remember, the first counter is always covering the head. Now, probably the biggest mistake I see in some of our sprawls, the way we sprawl, is we have a habit of taking our feet off the mat. We never want to take our feet off the mat. We want to meet him with our hips. We don't want to take our feet off the mat because most of the time when we land back on the mat, we post our knees on the mat. Here's what I mean. My opponent shoots into me, my feet come off the mat, my knees stay posted. They post on the mat. This is a very big mistake because if he keeps driving into me, I can't cover. Okay, I cannot recover because my knees are posted on the mat. We never want our knees posted on the mat when our opponent shoots into us. And that's why this has helped me a lot. In straights, I'm taking my hips to him. I'm never losing ground with my feet. Again, as he shoots here, we meet him with our hips here, we're driving the head down and covering it. Remember, when we cover it, we don't go to our knees. Okay? We take short, choppy steps around and we cover the head in this position, always keeping pressure into our opponent. Okay? If we go to our knees, we're going to take that pressure off of our opponent. Driving the head down here and covering it with our hips. Keeping the pressure into our opponent. And here. Now, we go into some counters from this position. Okay? That's just the basic simple hand. I had a problem here going over the head and under the armpit because a lot of times when I started to square around my opponent, I was losing the head here. Here's what I mean. I was coming here, the head was coming out in this position. What I've done now is whatever side I'm going to go to, I reverse my grip. I take my palm and point it towards his back. All I'm doing is posting his head to the mat with my hand instead of my forearm, right here. You can see that. Taking my hand, palm towards his back here. Now, instead of going to the butt, on the butt drag, I try to go right below and catch the back of the thigh here. Okay? Now, in this position, I'm going to pull up on the thigh, and I'm driving the head to the mat here. Okay? I'm taking short, choppy steps around my opponent. Okay? Right here in this position. Once I get to this position, I'm always bumping him off his base. Okay? So I'm using my hip to bump him off of his base, right here. And then coming under. All right? All we're going to do is, you got to realize that a man's shooting most of the time trying to create an angle around your leg. So we have to adjust our body and turn with him as he shoots the single leg. If he's shooting to my right leg here, okay, he starts to shoot to my right leg, I've got to turn my body to him. Okay? Remember, I'm trying to meet him with my hips, so I'm turning my body to him in this position. Squaring up, covering the head. It's simple to cover the head in this position because most of the time when a man shoots a single leg, he's shooting with his head to the inside. So most of the time, the head's going to be covered anyway once you sprawl. Again, we have to turn our body and meet him with our hips if he's shooting to the single, this position. Again, here, thigh grab by posting the head with our hand, going to the thigh, that's in. Okay, or some counters from this single leg. The man gets to the single leg. All right, here's my favorite finish right here. What I have discovered probably in the last year is if he's in on a single leg, a lot of times you'll get a lot of opponents that whatever they do, they will not let go of this grip. A lot of times they have the flexibility in their shoulders where they can really extend their arms out here, or sometimes they're just too powerful to break that lock. But this one counter that I've kind of discovered will break the lock. What I'm doing in this position, whatever side he's in on a single leg, and he's in deep, all right? Ideally what I want to do is I want to extend him out. But if he's too powerful and he keeps that lock in there, in this position, what I want to do is I want to do an ankle grab right here. And the way I'm doing this, my opponent's in on my right leg, I reach with my opposite hand to the far ankle. I make sure I control the ankle right here in this position. From here, I'm throwing my hip, my left hip, into my opponent. At the same time, I'm high legging over the leg that he's controlling. Now what that does to him is that keeps him, again, it keeps him posted on the mat. He can't move with me. The problem we get in on this position is we try to square around our opponent and he keeps moving with us. That's the problem we get into. What you want to do is you want to try to keep him posted on the mat where he cannot move. And this is the best way I've discovered is with the opposite hand, opposite to the leg he's controlling, we're controlling the ankle. From right here, I'm high legging over in this leg. So what we're doing is we're binding our opponent up right here. From this position, I swish her back under here, and I'm coming underneath the arms. It's really impossible for him to hold on. See how you post his legs? It's going to be tough for him to hold on because you're extending his body out. Right here. I have to release. All right, unless he's triple jointed or something, you can do this stuff here. Okay? But most of us aren't. Again, right here, if you don't like to high leg over like this, in this position here, just take short, choppy steps around our opponent. that you know the placement of this foot. You never want your foot to the inside of your opponent. If he slides down to the ankle and takes it to the inside, in this position, you're in big trouble. It's tough to defend anything because he is behind me. If he comes up with a single, the first thing you want to do is you want to place it to the outside right here. All I'm doing is I'm taking it out from the middle. You never want it here, you never want it here. You have to place it to the outside right here. What that does, that helps you give yourself a little more balance, and it's a lot tougher for him to finish from this position. If we can place it to the outside, the thing we want to do is we want to take the head, we want to drive it down in this position, and again, we're going to the butt drag or the thigh drag. I'm going back to the thigh, I'm covering the head and trying to break him back down to the mat. Here. Okay, and now we got the reverse grip here, bumping him to his hip. Again, right there. Anytime he comes up with the leg, make sure we place it to the outside, right here. Now, if there's times when he has it to the inside, right, just keep it in the middle. Right here, a little counter is going to the far elbow, controlling both elbows right here and pulling it to you in this position. Keep it up. Right here, trying to pull it to you. I'm dropping my shoulder below his chin. So I'm in this position, I'm coming here. From right here, you got it. Jar the heck out of him, right here. Coming straight up, pulling the elbows to you, trying to plant the foot to the mat, right here. Okay, now, be careful in this position. Okay, you have a bear hug, you're vulnerable for a bear hug, but also, you can look for a headlock. And I'm not one to hit a headlock. What I would probably do in this position is to look to pummel back out a bit and come back out in the position. Again, he's in on a single leg and he's looking to run things like the pipe or cross over and attack both legs. Going to the elbows, it's all in one motion. Going to the elbows, dropping the shoulder below the chin. We're driving the foot to the mat. As we're pulling the elbows, the shoulder is driving up, trying to jar him a little. It's good for him. Right here. Here, here. You look for your headlock if you'd like, or come back out in this position. That's from the lock. Most of the time, everybody locks like this. If they're not like that, if they're like this, all you have to do is break it. If they're like this, all you got to do is pull this leg down. This is the new lock right here. And most of you do it today. Maybe not even realize it. Go to the wrist, okay, that's under. And most of the time, it's going to be the opposite side. Go to the wrist right here. From here in this position, I'm pulling up on the wrist here as I'm driving the leg to the mat here. Right here. Okay, I'm sagging my body down the way, pushing the leg to the mat, driving it to the mat. And notice, on all these moves, I have an overhook. I try to keep an overhook in this position. Kind of helps me with my balance in here. Whether I'm out here, whether I'm in here, I'm always keeping an overhook. I should have mentioned that a while ago. Overhook. It allows you to bounce around a little more, and it allows you to keep your balance. Again, coming right here, coming under to the wrist, pulling down, driving up. Probably one of the more successful counters to when your opponent has your leg out of the air. On the high crotch, attacking the leg. Most of the time he's rotating his shoulders to the outside. It really doesn't matter whether he comes in square or he rotates his shoulders when he hits his high crotch. The thing you want to do on this particular move is you want to get an angle on the defense. So as he penetrates in the leg, I'm shifting my hips. Again, I'm meeting him with my hips, but I'm turning them. All right? I'm turning into him because he's attacking one side of the body. If I sprawl straight, I'm going to sprawl straight to the mat and maybe slide off his shoulders. So I want to turn my hips and meet him. All these counters, remember, you're meeting him with a punch. So as he hits the high crotch here, in this position, I'm turning my hips, and I'm driving him, never giving ground, driving into him, and at the same time, I'm sliding my hips down, right here, in this position. I've created an angle on him. Look where I've taken him. I do not want to sprawl straight down. Here's what happens a lot of times. You start to sprawl straight down, he gets in a lot deeper. Or into him here. If I sprawl into him, sometimes I slide off and you can create an angle and score. So you have to shift your hips to medium. It's important that you understand what I mean. When he penetrates on a high crotch, you shift your hips, you meet him, and you're driving him to the mat. That position. Now, once we get to here, we've got an angle on him. We come inside like the spiral ride. Coming inside the thigh right here, that outside leg, this leg here, it's coming under and it's catching right here so I can kick this arm out. So I'm right here. See what I've done? In this position. Now from here, I'm coming back underneath the arms. Right here. Driving here. From right here, coming inside here and controlling the hand. Breaking him down to the elbow right here. Now, coming back out. Once you break him down and control that arm. So we're right in this position here. Right here, coming inside. All you got to do is chop right here at the joint, and that elbow will go to the mat. Okay, you've broken him down. The rule book says all the fingers, heel, come back around. But do it quick. If you get one, just take one. I'm teaching illegal moves.